Good morning, students. Today we are going to discuss about Barnes compensator and our Lorentz half-shade polarimeter. So first we are going to discuss about Barnes compensator. Okay. So before going to Barnes compensator, first we have to discuss quarter wave plate. What is a quarter wave plate? We already discussed in the previous classes. Okay. Quarter wave plate and half wave plate. So quarter wave plate produces a fixed path difference between ordinary and extraordinary rays. What are ordinary and extraordinary rays? Whenever the light passes through the calcite or a quartz crystal, it is divided into two components or two rays. So one is ordinary and extraordinary rays. Okay. So between these two components, quarter wavelet produces some fixed path difference, and this can be used for light of a particular wavelength. Means different light have different particular wavelengths. Okay. So for particular wavelength and for different thicknesses have to be used. Means different wavelength of a light, different thicknesses have to be used for quarter wavelength. This is very difficult to produce. So to overcome that limitation, Barnes compensator is used. So Barnes compensator is an improvement over the quarter wave plate, and it is used to produce and analyze. What? Barnes compensator is improvement over a quarter wave plate, and it is used to produce and analyze the elliptically polarized light. Means we are getting elliptically polarized light from the Barnes compensator. Okay, no need of changing any thickness for different wavelengths of a light. Okay, that is the main thing. Now we'll see how the construction and what is the diagram. Okay, let us see the diagram. So this is our Barnes compensator plate. So it is looking like a two triangle shapes. There will be contact each other. So Barnes compensator consists of two angle wedge shaped pieces of quartz plates. This is a quartz plate with their hypotenuse in contact so as to form rectangular block, right? So one is the left wedge, other one is, what is a wedge? This shape, triangular shape, we'll call it as a wedge shape. So this is left wedge, this is right wedge. Okay, so now the optic axis of left wedge is parallel, while that of to the right wedge is perpendicular. Means the optic axis of two wedges are perpendicular to one another, right? So moreover, both are perpendicular to the incident beam, right? And also here one wedge is fixed, other wedge is movable with the help of micrometer screw, right? So this is fixed and this is movable. So at the center of the Barnes compensator, the thickness will be same. Means at the center, this, if we take as a T1 and T2, these two will be same at the center. As we move from here to here, the thickness will be changes. Okay, and this will be movable with the help of screw. That will be shown in the second figure. Okay, see here, this is thickness of T1, T2. At the center both are same. As we move from here to here, so the thickness will be changes, and it will, see here, this wedge will be movable with respect to the first wedge with the help of micrometer screw. Okay, now let us see its theory. This is about Barnes compensator plate, that's construction. Now whenever the polarized light fall normally on the face AB, that is a first wedge, at an angle of theta, the light beam is divided into ordinary, extraordinary components, right? Whenever the light beam incident on a face AB, it is going to divide into ordinary and extraordinary components or rays. So here what happened? Ordinary, extraordinary rays will travel in a same path but different velocities. They have their own speeds, means different speeds, right? So here different speeds means ordinary component travels faster than the extraordinary component because quartz is a positive crystal. That's why ordinary travels faster than the extraordinary component. Okay. Now what happened on reaching here? It is divided into two components. So ordinary ray travels faster than the extraordinary rays, right? So whenever it reaches second wedge, so ordinary becomes extraordinary, extraordinary becomes ordinary rays, right? So they changes their effect. That means here what happens, optic axis is perpendicular to the first wedge, right? So becomes optic axis perpendicular to the first wedge. Thus the two components, that is ordinary extraordinary, exchange their velocities in passing from one wedge to the other wedge, right? Finally what happens, whenever it reaches second wedge, they exchanges their speeds, their effects, everything. So they tend to cancel each other's effect finally, right? That is the thing. Next, we all know that mu represent for refractive index for the material, that is prism or quartz or calcite crystal. Now let us take mu e and mu naught is a refractive index for extraordinary and ordinary rays, and T1 and T2 be the thickness of a two wedges. Okay, so now the path difference between the two components, that is what is two components, extraordinary, ordinary. So the path difference will be mu e minus mu naught into T1, or the phase difference is delta 1, that is nothing but 2 pi by lambda into mu e minus mu naught into T1, right? So further, for the second wedge, the path difference of the second wedge is mu e minus mu naught into T2, and the phase difference will be delta 2, that is 2 pi by lambda mu naught minus mu e into T2, right? So mu e and mu naught is a extraordinary and ordinary refractive indices, T1 T2 thicknesses, this is path difference, and phase difference for the first wedge, and this is path difference and phase difference for the second wedge. Now the resultant phase difference, okay, that is represented by del here by the compensator, which is given by, it is represented by del, which is equal to delta 1 plus delta 2, means adding of these two we are getting the resultant phase difference, that is 2 pi by lambda into mu e minus mu naught into T1 plus 2 pi by lambda into mu naught minus mu into T2. Now in the second step, same as it is first term, second term just interchange the terms here, so we are getting minus sign here. After that, this is common, and mu e minus mu naught are also common, so only T1 minus T2. This is our resultant phase difference, okay, of Barnes compensator. Now we already discussed at the center of Barnes compensator. Okay, let us see this figure. So at the center, T1 equal to T2, means at the center of compensator, okay, the path difference and phase difference is 0. See, that is 0. So at the center, T1 equal to T2, and because of both are same, the resultant path difference and phase difference will be 0, right? So by moving the second wedge relative to the first wedge, desired value of T1 minus T2 can be arranged at the center of compensator. Means by moving this wedge with respect to the first wedge, our desired value of thickness can be introduced here for desired wavelengths. Okay. In case of quarter wave plate, what happens, every time we have to change the plates thicknesses, but here only by moving this screw we can change the thicknesses for particular wavelength range. Okay, so hence path difference and phase difference can be made at any desired value. Thus elliptically polarized light can be obtained with the help of Barnes compensator. Okay, thus compensator is similar to the wave plate of varying thickness, right? This Barnes compensator is similar to the wave plate only, but varying thickness. Okay, that is the thing. Now how to calibrate? We'll see the calibration now. Okay, so for that, the calibration I'll show in the diagram. So this is our diagram. Here what happens, this is our experimental arrangement of a calibration of Barnes compensator. Okay, now here we have a source. Yes, this is monochromatic light. Monochromatic light means single wavelength, single color. After that, next to this we have one lens, that is N1, L1, and two nickels N1 and N2 we arranged here, that is polarized. N1 acts as a polarizer, N2 acts as an analyzer. In between these two, Barnes compensator arranged, that is C. Next to the analyzer we have lens L2. Okay, L2. After that, our telescope, that is eyepiece E. Okay, so through the telescope we can view the field here. So here what happens, from the source the light falls on the lens first. After that it gets to fall on a polarizer, then on the compensator. Okay, but here nickel N2 analyzer is a crossed one, twisted somewhat. See, this is N1, N2, this is normally we have, but it is somewhat crossed. That means the emergent light from it, okay, plane with vibrations in the same plane as that of a transmitted of by N1. As nickel N2 is a crossed position, these vibrations are stopped. Okay, the light falls on the compensator through the N1, but after reaching N2 these vibrations will be stopped due to it is a crossed analyzer, crossed nickel N2. Thus we get a set of dark bands in the field of view. Means we are getting set of dark bands here. So thus we get elliptically polarized light. Okay, so if we use it, the light will be white, then we are getting center dark band will be very dark, and remaining means either side of the center one will be colored. Okay, so with the help of a micrometer screw, the dark bands move laterally across the field of view. What happens, we got here, that I will show how the bands will form. So here we got set of dark bands. So center one will be very dark, and either side of the center one colored bands will be formed if we use the white light here. Our source is white light, that is the thing formed here, that can be viewed through the telescope E. Right? Now first what happened here, with the help of this micrometer screw, dark bands move laterally across the field of view. Means the movable wedge is adjusted such that dark band appears on the crosswire. Means in the telescope we have crossed wires, means like this, y-axis and x-axis. So first dark band should make to focus on a crosswire here, and note down the reading, micrometer screw reading. Okay, now the screw again turn to bring next dark band on the crosswire again. Its reading again noted. So the difference of two readings gives the angle of rotation alpha of the screw. Right? Understand? First center, like this we are getting dark bands. Okay, so first this center dark band focused on the crosswire, note down the reading. After that again by the help of micrometer screw, second dark band focused on the crosswire again, note down the reading. The difference of the two readings gives the angle of rotation alpha of the screw. So that corresponds to the path difference lambda and phase difference 2 pi. So the procedure is repeated for number of bands and mean alpha is obtained. Okay. So in this way we are getting mean and elliptically polarized light. Okay, so I told you here we have field of view some dark bands. This is the diagram of that dark band. Number of bands. So this is the center one. So dark band. Next colored bands, bright, dark, like that we are getting the number of bands. Okay, that we can view through the telescope E. So this is our number of bands. Okay, having minus lambda by 2 minus lambda, but this side lambda by 2 and lambda by 2. These are the wavelengths. Okay, so in this way we are going to get elliptically polarized light through the Babinet's compensator. Okay. Next we are moving to Lorentz half-shade polarimeter. So what is Lorentz half-shade polarimeter? Right. So polarimeters are the instrument used to measure the angle of rotation produced by a substance. Okay, which is an instrument used to measure what? Angle of rotation produced by the substance. When they calibrated to read the percentage of cane sugar in a solution, they are named it as a saturimeters. So polarimeters can be used to find the specific rotation of sugar solution. If we know the specific rotation, we can use to find its concentration. Right? Now let us see its figure. This is the construction. Okay. So here it consists of source, that is monochromatic light source. Next lens, nickel prism N1 and N2. Between these two we arranged, calibrated our Lorentz half-shade polarimeter, that is HS means half shade. This is the tube which consists of a substance solution what we are going to take, and the ends will be closed. Next we have next one is nickel N2. Here we have SC, that is circular scale. After that we have telescope eyepiece E. Right? So we'll see the action experiment. Now what happens? Nickel N1 N2 half shade polarimeter, source of a light. When the optical active substance is placed between the two crossed lens, two crossed nickels, the field of view is not dark. Understand? So what happened? When the active substance is placed between two nickels, okay, two nickel prisms, then what happens? The field of view means we are viewing the field through the telescope, that is not dark. So in order to make the field of view dark, analyzer is to be rotated. Okay, understand? Okay. Next, so the Lorentz half-shade polarimeter consists of half wave. This is our Lorentz half-shade. Whatever the thing here, this half-shade, that I am showing here. Okay, we can see the diagram. So the Lorentz half-shade polarimeter consists of semicircular half wave plate ABC. See here, this is ABC. Okay, of quartz. This is of quartz. So it introduced a phase change of pi between extraordinary and ordinary rays, and a semicircular glass plate ADC. Okay, so this is of quartz plate ABC and this is of glass plate ADC. These two plates are connected along the diameter AC. Right? Let the plane of vibration of the plane polarized light incident normally on half shade plate along PQ. Okay, and first of all, the thickness of glass plate, okay, this is quartz I said and this is glass plate. The thickness of glass plate, okay, to be taken such that it absorbs the same amount of light as that of a quartz plate. The thickness to be chosen such that it absorbs the same amount of light as that of a quartz plate. Understand? Now, whenever the plane polarized light incident on half shade plate along PQ, so along PQ incident beam falls here, okay, at an angle of theta with respect to AC. Okay, incident beam falls on along PQ, an angle theta makes with AC. But in quads, what happens? Again, whenever the incident beam falls on quads, it is divided into ordinary, extraordinary beams. But they travel in the same path, different speeds, with different speeds, means with different velocities it is traveling. Ordinary ray travels faster than the extraordinary rays, and anyway they changes their effect, they changes their this one total effect in the quartz plate. Finally, the vibration of a beam emerging out of the quartz will be RS. Understand? So ordinary, extraordinary will be changing their effects, and finally the vibration of a beam emerging from RS. Okay, so the incident beam falls along PQ, and inside the quartz everything, the process happens, changing their effects, everything. Finally the beam emerging out along RS, right? This is about our half shade polarimeter that will be here. This thing I explained about this part now. Okay, next we are going to see determination of specific rotation. Okay, now we are going to find out the angle, that is theta. So first of all, what is specific rotation? First we should know about the specific rotation. Okay, Lorentz half shade polarimeter is used to find the specific rotation of a solution, right? So specific rotation is defined as, at a particular temperature of given wavelength of a light, is defined as the rotation produced by 1 decimeter length of its solution when concentration is 1 gram per cc. What is specific rotation? So the specific rotation of a substance at a particular temperature of given wavelength of light is defined as the rotation produced by 1 decimeter of length of its solution when concentration is 1 gram per cc, right? It is given as, the formula will be S, specific rotation S equal to theta by L into C, where theta is the angle of rotation in degrees and L is the length of a solution in decimeter, and C is the concentration of solution in grams per cc. So to determine the specific rotation, solution of known concentration should be prepared. Means to know the value of theta, we have to prepare the solution. So we know the concentration of that solution and length of its solution directly. We can measure. Now we are going to measure or find out the value of theta. How to find out the theta value? First of all, the experiment tube. Which tube? I'll show you the figure. Okay, the tube which is filled with water and placed in its position. Okay, first of all, the tube is filled with the water and placed in its position. Now the telescope is focused. The telescope is focused on the half shade, okay, polarimeter, and analyzer is rotated till equally bright position is obtained, right? First we have to fill this with water and focus the telescope